All right, here we go. We are live today, and I am super excited to bring it to you guys. We have a lot of people on today that are going to give you insights into the new Pmbok and how it affects the PMP exam and everything related to it. So before we jump in too deep, we have four people: Lee Lambert, Gina Alesse, and Alejandra Garcia. Why don't we go around the room? Gina, why don't you introduce yourself, tell them who you are, what you do for PMI, just kind of set the pace, if you would, ma'am.
Sure thing. Thanks, Scott. So I'm Gina Alesse. I am director of the professional development organization at PMI. And what that means is I'm responsible for events and also training, online training specifically. So as it relates to this conversation, we'll be talking about the PMP training and all good things that happen in that with that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And everybody that's watching, we got 36 people or so down there. Put your little questions down below. I'll pull them up. We'll ask it to the expert. So I appreciate it. Alejandra, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them what you do at PMI. Appreciate it.
Sure. So I am the manager for certification content at PMI. So any and all exams, including the PMP, my team's working on them.
Holy cow. That's a big one. You're going to be a famous person pretty soon. And Lee Lambert, if anybody doesn't know you, I don't know who they are, but could you introduce yourself and tell them who you are, what you do, sir?
Yeah, I could. I don't do much of anything. My history is that I was one of the founders of the PMP and have tried to stay active with PMI since I joined 43 years ago. And I try to keep them honest.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate it. We got some people in there saying, Scott Foss says, looking forward to the fresh perspectives. Thanks, Lee and all. So thank you, Scott. Let's jump into the first question. So what are the big changes to the new Pmbok? We'll talk about the exam, but from the PMI perspective, let's start on that side. Gina and Alejandra, what are the big changes that you see in this new Pmbok edition? Take it away, Gina. You go first.
All right. So really the big change is, a really big change in the new guide is it's not 900 pages anymore. It's only 300 now. So it's been shrunk. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of goodness in it still. We just have references to other pages instead of the whole 900 pages in the book. But really, we've tried to, as technology has changed and the way we work changed, the way project managers work has changed over the years, we really just tried to take a fresh look at the Pmbok guide and make it a lot more relevant, a lot more holistic, a lot more focused on outcomes rather than the previous editions. Alejandra, I don't know if you want to jump in and add anything to that.
Nope, sounds good.
Sounds good. Well, I got a question for you too, Alejandra. So let's just get into the $1 billion question. How does the new Pmbok impact the PMP exam? Your team working on this neighborhood, how does it impact it?
It doesn't.
Oh, no. So what are we going to talk about for an hour? All right, so talk us through that. That may be shocking to some people.
Yeah.
Talk us through why and how. Help us understand that, please.
Sure. So the exam, the PMP exam, it's intended to certify that the person that passes the exam is going to be and is already a successful project manager. And this is a little bit beyond what they might be doing in their own job, but they can be a successful project manager in any industry, in any region. So we're focused on the job. And so everything that we do is based on what is necessary to be successful on the job. So our exam content outline is what we've determined through a global practice analysis is necessary to be successful, regardless of what country you're in, regardless of which industry you're in. That's what you need to be a successful project manager across regions, across industries. So that's what we focus on, is that exam content outline. And the way that we write it is we don't look at that exam content outline and then we go and look at books, including the PMP, the Pmbok. We get people that are in the job, that are already project management experts from around the world and across industries, and they write questions to each and one of the tasks on the exam content outline based on their experiences on the job. Now, we do have a reference list. The Pmbok is on the reference list. So how does it connect if we're having people write the questions based on their experience? After they write their question, they have a peer from a different industry, a different region that reviews the question. After that, we have 5 additional people at a table, all other subject matter experts, all project managers from different places, and they review the questions. the individual person that writes the question finds one reference that supports what they're putting in as this is the right answer in this specific context that I described in this question. The 5 people that review the question add a second reference that says, yes, this also supports what we're having as the right answer in the specific question as it's in the question, the scenario, all those pieces, right? Because what we're looking for is that they know how to apply the knowledge that they need, right? So you're not going to get that from a book. You're going to get that from experience. But the books support this kind of broad perspective where it doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter what region you're in. This is information that's out there and it's global. So the Pmbok is a great reference book. It has a lot of really good information that really says how you should go about different aspects of project management. So you do often see it as a reference on the exam. So we don't write the exam based on the Pmbok. We don't use it when we're writing it, but we do use it along with other reference materials to support the questions there.
All right. Well, that makes sense. And it's experience-based, and we want to bring them from the field, those questions. So that's an awesome perspective. We'll come back into that. So, Lee, you have seen Pmboks come and go. Things change from the origin of the PMP to right now. In your mind, how does this Pmbok change rank among the history of changes? Do you like it? Are you inspired by it? Like, how does it fit for you, sir?
Yeah, I like it a lot, actually. I never thought the Pmbok as it previously existed on these incremental changes just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Really did the job of being able to isolate on what it took on certain kinds of projects. The thing that I'm happy about with this new Pmbok being a reference, but one of many, is one of the things I was always concerned about is people who passed their P exam. I mean, honestly, all you had to do was memorize the 6th edition of the Pmbok, and you had a pretty high probability of passing the exam. And I think what Alejandra's pointed out, that's not the case anymore. It's not going to be a memorization test. It's going to be based on you often how you deliver certain kinds of projects. I mean, the Agile side, which is incorporated into it, has been already incorporated into the exam as of January. And so I think the Pmbok, I just had a discussion with the Rotor today on this. I think that he was asking me, do you think PMI is a lead indicator or a lag? I think PMI has recognized this coming for quite some time. The Agile Manifesto was written in 2001, so it's not like this just popped up the other day. So I think we're a lag indicator. I think we are making moves to make us more realistic in terms of utilizing the Pmbok in today's environment.
All right, I understand that. That's great. And so back to Gina to go through this, based on what Lee's talking about, how it's we need to understand like how to do things, not just memorize, which I'm 100% on board with. Love it. You control or you lead teams that run the PMP training, the authorized training provider training that we as ATPs go out there and teach. How is that impacted by the Pmbok, and what will change and what will be the evolution there? Like how should we think about that, ma'am?
So again, it's not impacted by the Pmbok change or the Pmbok guide. The training team use the same exam content outline to build the training as the exam team used to build the exams. So the same people. We also have a bunch of people globally in the job, subject matter experts, project managers from around the world, helping us inform the training. We followed the exam content outline. You no longer need to read the book cover to cover, Lee, in order to pass the test, and in fact, it'll be a waste of time. You won't pass the test if you read the book cover to cover. It's not a good exercise because the course prepares you to take the test. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't. The Pmbok guide is still a great reference for doing the job, as is the standards. The Pmbok guide is really just a framework for applying the standards, right? The project management standards, which is in the Standards Plus. But we have incorporated several references, several real world experience and scenarios and people that are doing the work in real life today into the training in order to ensure that what's in that book will prepare you to pass the test.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So you mentioned one thing, like the Standards Plus. Can you talk us through like the PMI Standards Plus? Because when I read the Pmbok, the new version, I saw that and it was interesting. Can you talk to us about what it is, ma'am?
So this is not my area of expertise, but I can talk high level at what this is, and maybe Alejandra can help out a little bit. So really, the Standards Plus is a set of standards, project management standards that are credentialed or authorized by ANSI, which is also what the Pmbok or the PMP exam is authored by or credentialed by. And Alejandra, you just did your audit for that, so I'm sure you have some things to say about that. But really, what it is this sets the stage for standards around the world for what project management is as a profession and how you do the job. And then what the Pmbok guide does is provide a framework around that. So beyond like what are the details of that, I haven't seen the Standards Plus yet, so I don't really know the difference between the two, other than one's framework, one's standards, rules, and how you apply them.
Love it.
So I actually did ask Barb about the standards because somebody was asking me how they associated with the exam, and I'm like, I don't even know what they are. So here's what it is. It's the digital solution, right? So it's the guides, the shareable standards. It's also shareable how-to articles, case studies, interactive graphics, videos, audio content, and downloadable templates that you can apply to projects, and it's for different industries and different approaches. So that's where that plus comes from. You have all the standards there, easily accessible, but then you have all this additional content that's going to help you apply them to your industry and your region and everything.
And one thing I'll add to that I do know about this is one of the reasons why the Pmbok guide is smaller than the last version is that we've moved the process groups from the Pmbok guide to the Standards Plus.
Oh. All
so
right,
you
that's
can
cool.
still find it, but it's in that reference instead.
Now, let me ask you a dumb question. Like, why did we make the change? Why did they make the change to the new Pmbok? Like, was it just we were running out of paper, whatever? Like, what was the issue?
I think from my perspective, the reason why they made the change is because it really wasn't the 6th edition has a lot of good information in it, a lot of good stuff that you should know, but it wasn't really framed in a way that was like how people actually do the job in the real world. It wasn't really relevant, as relevant. It was a lot more predictive, a lot more prescriptive, not holistic, a lot more. Now this one is focused more generally on how do you get the job done? How do you do it in the real world? It's not about definitions. It's not really about all the little details and the memorization. Again, what Lee said earlier, it's not about memorizing. It's about how do you actually make decisions about, do I do waterfall? Do I do agile? Do I do hybrid? How do I solve the problems on my desk? How do I do it every single day?
I like that, Lee. And as they're like, evolving this and they go, like Gina said, to the approach that they have now, is this more in alignment with what you and the team were initially thinking as you started to create the PMP and evolve it forth? Is this kind of like in alignment?
Yeah,
with what you guys
I think so. Now you got to remember, back in 80, 81, 84 timeframe, when we were creating the PMP, I mean, it was just a bunch of volunteers that got around and made stuff up, and we didn't have a Pmbok until 1996. So we were testing 12 years before we even had a Pmbok. So you can get along without it. I think the reason we kind of attacked it this time is it was just getting too darn big. I mean, I used to make a joke that by the 10th edition, I had a truck to haul that thing around. And that's partly because it was developed, each sequence was developed by another group of volunteers. And the volunteers wanted to get their name in the book, and so they wanted to add their little piece of it, and it just kept growing. It's like a bad rash. You couldn't get rid of it. And so it just, it's something that needed to be done for a long time. And I think finally we recognized that if we're going to stay competitive with the rest of the project management world, we're going to have to come up to speed what's going on.
Okay. Alejandra, let me ask you, do processes still matter? Like, as we think about, like, I like the simplicity of a waterfall structure and how it lays down. It helps the mind organize in a sense. knowing that we have to not go through them all, but do these processes still matter as we move forward?
I think so. I mean, we're very focused on results, but there's different ways to get those results. And depending on your project, the context in your organization, the process that you use will work better or worse, right? Those approaches need to fit with not just what you're doing, but who you're doing it with. I'm not going to get into questions, but I do review some.
Yeah,
so I do see some questions along the idea of, well, if my team's not really agile yet, can I do an agile approach for this project, right? And what are the steps to get them there? So I think it's very important. The processes are still important, but we're looking at multiple processes because we're trying to get to a certain result. And given what's already in your environment, one may work better or worse than another.
Okay, I understand. And Gina, in the development of the content, like the training content out there, what was the focus? Like, was it difficult to help the team that developed it transition from principle or from processes to principles? Or how was that process for you in leading them? Like, was it a difficult process? Was it refreshing to focus on these principles? Like, what was it like for you and the team to guide them?
Well, I don't know if it was refreshing, but it was some fun. I mean, I think to Lee's point that he just made, you know, I had 12 people in a room helping me design the structure of the course. And we've gotten a lot of feedback that the structure of the current course sucks and we should redo it. And I think every time you get a new group of people in the room, you're going to get another opinion on how the thing should be structured and how we should apply this, you know, exam content outline. So I think that part of it is fun because there's some negotiation, there's some confrontation, there's some challenges about that people that are doing it different ways every day. Again, globally, they're instructors, they're, you know, in the role, they're corporate, they're education, they're whatever they are. Everybody has a different way of how they would do it. And so that's what, you know, that's the approach that we took was one where we had 12 people in a room and they finally agreed on something after a couple of days and we went from there. If I did it all again tomorrow and had 12 new people, it might look completely different.
That's fair. That's honest. And so Alejandra, when you go about developing the questions and evolving the exam, like there was a significant change January 2nd of last year, right? Like we would consider that was a big change. Is that right?
Yep.
What was the big change like? Like, how did you lead that change? Like, I'm interested in just like the process. Like, how long before the change did y'all start writing questions and refining questions?
Well, the writing questions didn't start till maybe 2019, but the process started in 2018. Oh, wow. When we went out, and every 5 or so years we do a global practice analysis and we do everything from scratch. We gather project managers from around the world and we ask what is important for the job, what do you do all the time, what is critical for your success, what is very difficult. This is an example I've been using frequently. The power button on your computer, you press that button every day, very frequent. You cannot do your job without it nowadays, right? So very critical. True. But it's so easy, you wouldn't test on it, right? So yes. we go through an understanding of what the role has evolved into and what every single task and subtask is, all the knowledge, skills, and abilities associated with each one to determine what we really need to test. And that becomes the exam content outline. So that process began in 2018, finalized in 2019, and then we started developing the content. Now we're constantly developing new content. We're constantly field testing it. That's why you have those unscored questions. You don't know which ones they are, but we're testing out if those new questions are going to perform how we expect them to perform before we actually score you on them, right? We want to be really confident about that before we make a pass-fail decision based on a question. And so it evolves, but I can tell you that from writing a question to it being a scored item on the test, it's going to take a minimum of 3 months, but sometimes it can be up to a year or more.
Oh, really? Because and those are those extra questions that are featured, and students will answer them, and then you'll get the feedback, right? Say like, this many got it right, wrong, and then somewhere in the middle, right? Mathematically.
Right. And I mean, and a lot more goes into it. The item analysis, like the option analysis. Did everybody pick A and D or D? Well, that means B and C aren't good. Let's balance that out, all those pieces of it. But yeah, it goes through thorough and rigorous analysis afterwards.
Lee, did you guys start with thorough and detailed, rigorous analysis of the questions that you guys wrote initially, or how did that go initially?
Oh yeah, it was grueling. It took us about a week to put it together. Everybody contributed questions. We had 40 questions in 8 body of knowledge areas, and most of them were donated by people who'd been involved to some extent. I mean, you got to remember, back in 1984, this was not brain surgery. We used to do the test, and so we spent probably, I'm guessing seriously, about 2 months putting together tests. And I mean, it was. I mean, I hate to say it's so easy compared to now, but it was so compared to now that almost anybody that had been in project management long enough to qualify to sit for the exam passed. I mean, we held 50 people the exam the first time in Philly, and I think 39 of them passed the exam. So that was the pass rate in the first test. And we'd recycle volunteer questions. And so we filled that bank up, and we didn't cut down the body of knowledge areas for a long time. It was a paper test, 8 body of knowledge, 40 questions in each body of knowledge area, and you had to pass all 8 body of knowledges to be your PMP.
Wow, that's
So
cool.
certainly
And look
didn't
where it
have
is now.
what Alejandra had availability to do
She's
testing.
got it easy. She's got
and
the math
exercising
behind
those
her. She's
questions.
got models and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
She's an advocate. So
That's great. That's great. Alejandra, is the exam still scored on a curve? You don't have to get into the details. I don't want the pass-fail score, but like help me understand those out there.
Oh my
Is it
goodness! I
just
hope it was never on a curve.
Is it not on the curve? What is it like?
So a curve means that you're going to push it into that
Well-
kind of normal distribution. So if most people were doing really well, you're actually going to make them do less well to shape it into a curve. And you
Okay.
pull out the extremes and you pull them into the middle. That's scoring on a curve. I don't recommend it. We really, in general. However, so what we do is we use item response theory. That's a statistical process. It's estimating difficulty by ability. You look at a theta score. We don't go based on a raw score. It's a model that based on the information we've gathered on the test, we feel very confident that you should or shouldn't pass, right? That you should get that credential or not. And that helps us because we're constantly making new test forms. And items, even test questions, when they're even on the same topic, they can be a little bit more difficult, a little bit easier. It's just like a multiplication test. If you have, 2 times 2 versus 2 times 9, one is considered a little more difficult than the other. So we have an equating score scale. So we say, well, on this test, if you know this much, you're going to score here because it's really easy. But on this other test form, on the same topic, we have some more difficult questions. So if you know the same, you may get actually a lower score. And so we equate those forms so that no matter which form you get, it's fair and we're maintaining the same standard no matter the set of questions that you get.
I love it. I'm going to go deeper. So now that people think it's on a normal curve, like they are wrong. So that's cool. Has the pass rate? So I imagine what was the method called again? I apologize.
IRT, item response theory.
Item response theory. Okay, cool. With the item response theory, I assume that the PMP pass rate has not changed statistically significantly on the new exam. Is that correct? Am I false?
You know what? We're not looking at that because it's a different content outline. We're testing different pieces. For example, there's a lot more people aspects in the new content outline than there was in the previous one. So we're testing project management, but the skills that are most important nowadays are not the skills that were most important before, and that impacts the weighting. So because it's not the same content outline, we're not comparing pass rates because we're actually testing slightly different things.
But you could mathematically compare them.
We could, but we don't have a reason to.
Okay. Oh, then I asked. But
Yeah.
like, yeah. Okay, cool. So you're not gonna tell me it's cool. What kind of interaction is there between PMI training and exam? When I first learned that like there's different departments, like, oh, that makes sense. But then I was like, oh gosh, like how do they interact? How do they do it? Like, are you guys working together on like on a daily basis, weekly basis? Your teams interfacing?
So, ANSI, ISO, we are completely separate.
Oh, it's like split house.
Firewall.
Okay.
That doesn't mean me and Gina don't talk. Doesn't mean, but the people that work on the training content do not have anything to do with the exams. The people that work on the exam content do not have anything to do with the training.
We don't want to teach to the test. We can't teach to the test. There's legal defensibility. That's one of our favorite words. We like to throw around 2 words. But we don't ever want to teach to the test. And so we work together in that we have our timelines linked together. We exchange information. We use the same exam content outline. We use one document to build both things. But we don't have, her team doesn't write content for training and my team doesn't write exam questions.
Yep.
That makes sense. Somebody asked, we're going to go into like one thing that Gina said a little bit earlier. Andy Wu said, love the part of the structure sucks. I don't know what he means by that. Like you said, like a little bit, I want to be very, very clear that the material does not suck. And like, what does that mean that we shouldn't take the current training and wait till you fix it?
No. So the point I was trying to make there is that different people have different opinions about it. So we've received feedback from people that they don't like the structure and that we need to change it. And so actually Lee helped me on a little maintenance project of the first version of this training. And one of the major pieces of feedback that we had to decide how we were going to address it and how we were going to update it is the structure. So, but then we started looking outside of those, minor, the vocal minority, I guess, and asking other people what they thought of the structure. And there are a whole bunch of people that love the way it's organized right now. It's just different from the way the last training was organized. So that's what I meant by it sucks. Some people think it sucks. Some people think it's awesome. And that's one of the beauties about this ATP program is that you can really augment the training yourself and you can rearrange it if you want to. If you want to teach it in a different order, you can teach it in a different order. If you want to add your own experiences or your own stories or your own examples that you've been teaching for a million years, you're able to do that and really make it more work for the people that are in front of you in the desks or in the virtual desks. So we try to create that flexibility in there. But the point I was trying to make when I said it sucks, it definitely doesn't suck. It's great content. It's a lot of information. It's very much based on, the exam content outline, like I said. But different people have different ways that they think they should organize the material.
I love it. Yeah. And I think that's great. Like, and it's all focused on value and like it's like the outputs instead, or not the outputs. It's like outcomes over outputs in a sense, right? Like we're trying to build people's minds and get competency through that. And it pulls together. So as we come to the end here, I really appreciate half an hour. We've had a ton of people on there. If there's anybody else out there, like type your questions in now. A lot of people are, they're loving this. So we appreciate it. As they go forward, like Lee, do you have any final statement or final words for like people out there that are starting to use and dive into the new Pmbok and they're moving forward with the PMP? Like what would be some of these, like the last message that you would have for them as they start to kind of interpret this new information and use it? What would you say to those individuals?
Well, as I tried to look through it to the extent that I could, one of the things that took my attention was the emphasis on redirecting to make sure we're consistent with business objectives. So again, it's about that outcome situation, making sure that we're constantly evaluating our progress and making sure that that's staying in alignment with what the organization is attempting to accomplish. I think that there's an emphasis put on that in the book that I think is going to be very important.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Gina, do you have a favorite part of this is a weird question. Do you have a favorite part of the new Pmbok? Like, I know you're reading again at night and it's, making you excited, but is there a favorite part in your mind? Thank you, Lee.
If I don't know if there's a favorite part, but I do think that it does make me happy that we're focused on reality and not focused on a bunch of terms and a bunch of memorization. When I took the test, which is 2007, it was a lot about memorizing, a lot about, figuring out what was in that book, and nothing about the way I actually talked in real life in my job as a project manager, or what really happened in my world. And so I think what I like about it is that we're trying to make it more relevant. We're continuing to get better. We're always iterating. We're very agile at PMI. We're trying to continue to get better, stronger, faster. And I like that it's risky. Like, it's a third of the size it was. It's based on holistic stuff. It's nothing like the old guide. And people have a lot of questions about that. And I think I like that we took that risk because it makes sense for the way the world is working today.
I love that. I think that's really, really awesome. Also, Scott Foss said, great content in the course. Love the new open architecture. Great work, PMI. Great work, Gina. He didn't put that on the back end, but I added that.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then there was a question thrown in there from Workplace Tim. What percentage, if you can answer it, what percentage of agile versus predictive in the PMP exam? I can tell you what my peoples are telling us, but
okay. So I will say it's 50% predictive, 50% combined agile and hybrid. Now it's 23 versus 27% about, and it's spread across. So it's not like we have a task that says, do this in an agile manner. It's every single task that we're testing could be done with agile methodology, with hybrid methodology, or with predictive methodology. So it's mixed in. It's not a certain task or a certain domain that looks at these approaches. It's the whole exam. But it's about 50% predictive and then 50% between agile and hybrid.
I love it. All right. That's good. Andrew Ramadal, I know that guy. He says, great interview, good questions. Appreciate it, Andrew. And so everyone says, really good team. So it seems like you guys really like your jobs. This is an unprepared question. You like your jobs? I don't want to ask in front of everybody, but it seems like
you are.
Yeah. That's really awesome that you like your job.
I'm guessing they're going to say yes.
Well, I mean,
yes.
I do. I like it.
Yeah.
You can't. They couldn't have that smile if they didn't like their jobs. So I'll add on there. Like, I think you're making a giant impact, obviously, in both your neighborhoods. First of all, thank you, Lee, for everything you've done over the years. And then you're both making a giant impact. What's the part of your job that you enjoy the most? Like, in this, let's start with Gina. Gina's looking longingly to the side. Maybe I'll go to Alejandra first. Alejandra, let's go to you and say, what do you like most about your job? Because, I mean, millions of people are like, they're depending on you. Like, what do you like the most?
Well, there's two things, very different things that I like. One is the travel, obviously, because it's travel. I love going to new places. But everywhere that we go, we meet project managers from these new areas, and they tell us all about how they're doing things in their place, how it's impacting their communities and what they're doing there. And it's just so great to meet the people that we're working for and understand how it is that project management impacts their lives and their communities. So I think that's awesome. And I like statistics. So, I like the analyses. I like the math.
That would be super duper cool.
Yeah.
Alejandra, would you be cool with later another podcast, us talking statistics? We can just talk statistics if you want to. I like statistics too. But going deep into the exam, would you be okay for that?
Yeah, it'd be fun.
See, always ask for the next order. It's good. That's good. And then I learned that from Lee. And Gina, what do you like? You're training me well, Lee. What do you like about your job?
So I would say I did like the travel. I haven't traveled anywhere for quite some time now, but that was one of the perks at PMI. I think it's great to have a job where projects are everywhere. Everybody does a project. Laundry is a project. Everything's a project, every industry, every region. I love that it's important. It's important to help people figure out how to manage their jobs, their problems, solve their problems. And I would add that I really like the people I work with. There are a lot of very smart people at PMI, a lot of really fun people, and the organization, the community around PMI, all the members and all the volunteers and all the chapters, they have so much. Everybody always says, I've only been at PMI for like a year and a half, and everybody always said, they're so passionate. These people are so passionate. And that is no joke. Like, there is so much passion. Sometimes I would say maybe too much passion for this thing that we do. And I think it just makes it fun because, people actually care about what you're doing. They want to contribute. They want to weigh in. They want to argue with you, and they want you to succeed. And I like that about my job.
I love it. Okay, cool. Lee, have you heard or anybody heard about when PMI is going to go like open events, like global conferences, anything like that? Have you heard anything about that? Like, or is there any plans that you've heard in the?
I have not. Last I knew was that we're not doing it this year. So
yeah, I can help with that.
I don't know
Scott,
when we'll do that again.
Okay.
We are going to do it again, definitely, and we are just waiting for, because the world is in different stages of crises still. And there are a lot of new safety precautions and regulations and a lot more involved in putting on an in-person event than last year or 2019. So our goal is early 2022 right now to have in-person events. We're always going to have some element of virtual though. So there'll probably be hybrid events from now moving forward. And there are also cases where in different parts of the country, local events you'll see local events starting to come up that would, complement or supplement some of the bigger PMI events. But we're really just kind of waiting to see what happens with the world. I mean, we all want to get back in person, just like Alejandra just said. We all want to travel. We all want to go somewhere exotic. We all want to see our friends and have drinks at the bar and have a good time. And as soon as we can possibly do that and, make it safe for our customers and our community and our staff, we will definitely do that.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, I must thank you again.
Always got to bring those drinks in, don't you?
You know me.
Just wait today. We're working on, she didn't say what kind. It could be a strong cup of coffee. So who knows? That's it. Well, I appreciate all of you sharing. This has been a great interview. This will not be hopefully the last time we speak. And then Gina come on and talk about the content and those things. Lee, we go mostly every week. And then Alejandra, we already signed up, so we're good to go.
Yep.
So I appreciate it. Thank you again. And for everybody in there, thank you guys for showing up, and we'll continue to put content out there. And thank you very much. And awesome. So, LinkedIn says, great conversation. Thank you for your time. So thank you again, guys. See you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye. See ya.